Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City as we begin another year of worship together. If you're joining us for the first time today, and gosh, we have a lot of visitors. I'm so grateful. You are in the right place. You're in the room where it happens, right? We have a welcome table just outside this door in Elliott Hall. We would love to meet you, get to know you, introduce ourselves to you as a church community. And if you're joining us online, welcome to you. I'm delighted that you're here. I invite you to visit our website, slcuu.org. Check out our social media channels, our YouTube channel to see our past services and get to know us a little bit that way. Well, Salt Lake County is in the green zone. I checked it this morning. We have very low virus in our community, which is wonderful. And that means we're going to be singing today. Masks are always welcome here, but they're not required as long as we're in this green zone. If you'd prefer not to be around singing people, though, I invite you to find a seat in Elliott Hall. No shame in that game, just get up and go. And if you're in Elliott Hall, then that's the no singing zone. So if you want to sing, come on in here. Find your singing preference. We just want everybody to feel cared for and that there's a space where you can feel comfortable and safe. Now, if our county does go back into the red zone at some future point, we will revert back to our previous precautions. We'll require masks again, and we'll go back to just listening to our lovely David. But for now, let's enjoy one another's music. Now, as you can well imagine, we have a ton of announcements to make, so we might as well just dig in right here at the top. I'm going to go broad, not deep. So the first thing to know is that you can find the details of any of these things in our torch email. And if you're not getting the torch, just stop by Stephanie's office right behind me after church and ask her if you can be added. It's that time of year when we like to register all of the people for all of the things. So we have lists of who is doing what. If you have children who will be in religious education this year, registration is open, and it's really important to get your kids signed up as soon as possible so we can match teachers with classes and get everybody involved. Small group ministry registration is also open. You can find these links in the torch. Next, here's a couple of dates to add to your calendars. We're looking for volunteers to staff a booth representing our church at the Avenues Street Fair on Saturday, September 10th. That's this coming Saturday, right? No, the following Saturday, 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. We'll be there from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's a long day, so we need volunteers to set up beforehand, take down afterwards, and hang out during the day and tell people about our church. If you can assist, you can stop by and let Stephanie know or email Derek Giersdorf, community@slcuu.org. Next week, we will once again have one service at 10 a.m. I want you to know that we'll be talking about reproductive justice. We will say the word abortion. It is not a word that you will hear in every church, but you will hear it here. If you have small kids, we have childcare available if that's not a conversation that you're ready to have with those kids. But we're not going to go real super deep or anything on the details. So it's once again, it's an all ages service. But I want you to make a good decision for your family. The service will be at 10 o'clock. Then September 11th, we will go back to 2 services, 9 and 11. Our worship that day will be intergenerational. There will not be religious education. There will be childcare for the small ones. But we want everybody to be here together, all ages. We've got something extra special planned for that day. We want everyone on September 11th to gather out on the plaza. Why? It's a surprise. You'll have to come and find out. And then after the 11 a.m. service on the 11th, the religious education team wants to invite you to stay for a potluck lunch on the playground. Bring something to share with everybody and enjoy the company. September 25th is the long-awaited return of the Activities Fair. Woohoo! Watch for the details coming out this week. Go ahead and put it on your calendar. We've got some fun surprises planned for that too. One last announcement from the transition team. The congregational survey that many of you have been awaiting is now in your inbox. And it's on the website too, right? Yes. Okay, thank you, whoever that was. This is the survey of who we are as a congregation right now and where we hope to go in the future. And this is the survey, the results of which potential ministerial candidates will be looking at to check us out, see if we're a good match for each other, them for us, us for them. So it's really important that we get information from everyone in the congregation. So if you haven't filled out the survey, please go to your inbox, check your spam folders if you don't see it. If you still don't see it, look on the website and fill that out as soon as you can. Okay. Yes. I don't have that information, but you do.
Can I steal your mic?
Yes.
Sure. Sorry. If you're interested in, I'm David Owens, Director of Music here at First Church. If you're interested, thank you. If you're interested in joining either one of the choirs, the bell choir or the chancel choir singers, we have begun rehearsals. So if hop on board, you're a week late. It has been posted on the church website. Bell choir, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, Elliott Hall. Chancel choir, Wednesday night, 7 to 9, here in the sanctuary. So just show up and we'll find a place to put you. Thanks.
Okay. That's all the announcements for now, but we cannot go on with our first service of the year without acknowledging some very special people. While Reverend Ian and I were away on our summer leave, Sunday mornings continued to provide a meaningful experience for our community through the Summer Forum. There were fascinating discussions on a wide range of subjects, including independent journalism, the inland port, Israeli-Palestine conflict, how to serve our UU youth better, and so much more. All of the recordings from Summer Forum are now available on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch or do what I do, listen while you're washing the dishes or running errands. I just want to take a moment to thank all the people who made that possible. The members of our church who organized those speakers, Tristan Moore, our tech director, who handled all the AV and produced the recordings, all the volunteers who greeted the door or served coffee, and finally, the tireless organizer of the whole shebang, Mark Rothacher. If you volunteered during Summer Forum, would you just raise a hand? Let us acknowledge you as well. Thank you. Thank you. This kind of lay leadership is what makes churches thrive. It's so important, and we are so grateful to you. I would like to invite Mark to come forward real quick to tell you about a bonus episode.
First off, I'd like to especially thank all our team leaders who made this Summer Forum possible. We couldn't have done it without you, and so let's give them a big hand. They're the ones that did the heavy lifting. They organized their program, and they're the ones that did it. And I think this is a format that the church could use to have a coordinator, like the role I played, and then team leaders for different things. We could use it in other areas. And also, let's give another big hand to Tristan Moore. We could not have done it without his expertise on the camera, sound, all that. Finally, we have one more, as Stephanie labeled it, Encore Summer Forum presentation. It's this Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. and it's Zoom only. We had a conflict with the choir and all that kind of thing, so we just decided to do it on Zoom. But the title is The Utah Legislature, What They Don't Teach You in Civics Class. And with the elections coming up, this is so important to understand how things work. And we'll have Elizabeth Waite from our own congregation, who's a representative in the Utah Legislature, and Suzanne Harrison, who was in the Utah Legislature until her seat got gerrymandered out from under her. She's running for Salt Lake County Council at large position. So please mark your calendar, get online and join us. It'll be the same format, a discussion for about 35 minutes and then a Q&A.
Is that recorded?
It's not going to be recorded. It's going to just be Zoom.
But
So
the Zoom won't be recorded.
It will be. Oh, Tristan. See? Okay, it will be.
Choir folks, you have to show up to choir rehearsal.
Anyway, thanks everybody. It was a great summer forum, and thanks Monica and Ian for letting us put that on and stimulating our conversations. We Unitarians really are trying to make the world a better place.
Now, we settle into this moment. Our hearts are so full of anticipation for a year ahead, full of gratitude for the presence of each other, full of excitement for the music we're about to make, full of commitment to this place, these people, this movement. We feel this fullness as a light, a candle flame growing stronger in our hearts. We begin our service by making this light appear before us as we light our chalice with these words by my friend and colleague, the Reverend David Colmiller. This fire is a reminder of the light within us all, the yearning for freedom, the longing for truth, the flame of intuition, the torch of conscience. We dedicate this service to the remembrance of this holy light. My friends, can I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing number 347? bells. Y'all sounded so beautiful. The work of the Unitarian Universalist Association is often unseen, but we couldn't be what we are without them. The dues that we pay to the UUA helps pay for staff that support our congregations, including for us, the program staff who are helping us to search for a new minister. The Reverend Susan Frederick Gray was a parish minister long before she was our UUA president, and this will be her last year in this position. For 5 years, she has served our association with grace, building coalitions of UUs for the work of ministry and justice. She sent a message to all the congregations this weekend, and I'd like to share it with you this morning.
Hello, Unitarian Universalists. I'm the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, President of your Unitarian Universalist Association. It is so good to be with you for another season of Ingathering. This time marks the end of summer, when we come together to renew our commitments to each other, to our Unitarian Universalist communities, and to begin another vital year of ministry. In the summer months, I hope that you and your loved ones found some time to rejuvenate your bodies and spirits, to rest, to enjoy the long summer days, to pursue hobbies that bring you joy. I know that the world is all too much, and it matters that we take time to rest. For rest is necessary for the quality of our lives, of our ministries, and of our spirits. We are all living in what I have come to call a liminal time, a time in between. The pandemic has upended so much. After 2 years plus of virtual and hybrid gatherings in our congregations, the ways in which people connect to religious community has broadened, and new patterns are still emerging. On so many levels, what comes next is still unfolding and being imagined. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to care for each other and to create resilient, theologically imaginative spiritual community that sustains us and inspires us as we navigate what's to come and what is needed. And there is so much needed. From supporting access to reproductive care to showing up through UU the Vote to elect leaders that will work to protect our children, our planet, our future, and our deeply held values. It also matters that we attend to doing the fundamentals of religious community, like supporting children and families recovering from, and in some cases still experiencing, the collective trauma of the last few years. Our world needs our message of love and justice. Our world needs brave, bold, and loving communities that are in the struggle for equity, dignity, and compassion. One way to join with your sibling Unitarian Universalists in this work is through UU the Vote. You can find out more at uuthevote.org. Your Unitarian Universalist Association is the embodiment of the covenant that all of our congregations make to each other to support each other. And the UUA is here because of your commitment to make and support and amplify our values, to support each of our congregations in their time of need, and to be more than any of us are alone. At the UUA, we are committed to being steadfast partners with you in this liminal time and in all that is ahead. As you gather in this sacred hour and join again in community, may we each remember the hundreds and thousands of Unitarian Universalists that are gathering all across our association, celebrating and calling themselves back into the power and the possibility of faithful community. For we are not alone, and we make each other strong. I send you my love and my blessings as we enter this new congregation year and celebrate in gathering. Much love and deep care to all of you.
We are not alone, and we make each other strong. We are just one congregation among many, spread out across the world, worshiping in many different ways, made up of many different kinds of people from many walks of faith, but all of us warmed by one light, the light we kindle in our chalice flame. When we light our chalice, when we gaze upon it in worship, we can think of all the UUs who are gathered around their own chalices wherever they are, gathered on a Sunday morning as we have gathered for centuries, seeking truth and meaning together. The flame remains in our hearts when we leave this place, and it shines a light on the life we live in faith. Yet it is not just our light, it is a shared light, just as when we pass a flame from one candle to another. We think of all the others who share it and how they might be living their truth today, and we remember that we're not alone. Today we have lit our chalice to illuminate the path ahead into a new church year. We know that this year will be a momentous one for our congregation. We are casting a new vision for our 130-year-old institution. We are imagining who we will be for each other, for those in our community who need us, for Unitarian Universalism itself. We, like Theodore Parker, our ancestor, cannot see the arc all the way to its end. We can see but a little ways. We choose to trust that we are bending the arc of our own history toward justice. Spirit of the flame, be our light. We're not asking you to show us the whole arc, just show us the next step, and then the next. Help us to feel the presence of those traveling alongside us, even when we can't see them. Remind us every moment that we are not alone. Amen. Thank you, David. Now is the time when we will accept our offering. Our community is supported entirely by and depends on the regular contributions of its members and friends who are gathered here. And we have more ways to give than ever. We, of course, accept your cash, but you can also find a QR code in the back of the pew in front of you that you can scan with your phone, and it'll take you right to our donation page. Thank you to all of you who donated over the summer, and let's keep the energy going. It is so good to be here with you today. My face hurts from smiling already. I think that'll probably last until October, then I'll get into the rhythm. I hope that every one of you had a wonderful summer, and I can't wait to hear about all of your adventures over coffee or in the catch-ups around the many meetings that are about to happen. There's so much work to do, and I love this time of year when anything seems possible and there's so much energy in our church. I've had some time to rest and some time to think, some study time when I could work through that stack of books and podcasts and documentaries that piles up during a church year. All the things that you recommended to me, I'm still catching up. So don't ask me if I read it yet. Just be nice. I had some time to lay down some plans for the year ahead. Most importantly, time to let my mind run off leash. I hope that you've also had time to rest deeply. It's time that everyone needs in order to thrive. One of the biggest things that's been on my mind this summer is the future of faith, not just our church. The nature of faith and faith practice is changing very rapidly in our country. Most Americans still describe themselves as spiritual people, but have left faith communities in record numbers. And the largest faith group, Christians, find themselves increasingly alienated from religious community by the alignment of organized Christianity with extreme right-wing politics. Add to that the crisis in volunteerism, not just in faith communities, but in all kinds of civic and nonprofit efforts, and the deep spiritual exhaustion wrought by the pandemic. And it's easy to see that we are facing a sea change in the way we do church. I also thought a lot about my own personal faith journey, where I am now. I've been in ministry in some form for 8 years now. And one of the things that I realized over the summer is that in becoming a minister, I became a professional UU. And if I'm not very diligent, that can come at a cost to my own faith. Now, one of my colleagues makes a joke about this. She says that becoming a minister does not mean you are an extra holy person. On the contrary, to be called to the ministry might mean that God thinks you need a little extra help fulfilling your purpose. So she has to give you a job to do to stay busy. And the longer I do this, the more I think my colleague might have something there. But another effect is that I have to work a little harder just to think of myself as a Unitarian Universalist rather than as a representative of UUism. What does my UU faith mean to me privately, aside from the calling to ministry, apart from the stream of history and tradition. What kind of a UU would I be today if I weren't being a UU for a living? What I'm doing here is interrogating the contours of my own faith. I mean, hopefully it makes me a more effective minister, but I also just want to be a better human, which is what I think most of us want. We think about what real success means. What will people think of us when we're gone? Will they? Will we have made any difference? Will we leave this old world any better than what we found it? So during my study time, I thought about this question: where are the growing edges of my own faith? What have I done to live into the 8 principles, not just for myself, not for the people or the community that I serve? What kind of a UU life am I living? So I decided to take action and become a volunteer myself. And here are some of the actions that I took. For one, I signed up to be a poll worker this November. Not because I need a second job, Lord, I don't, but because nonpartisan work for our democracy is really risky right now. Election workers across the country have been resigning in droves due to the pressures ranging from disrespect and harassment to threats of harm or even death. I figured, if I really believe in the 5th principle, I could show up on election day and give democracy a hand. And hey, I might even get some free donuts or pizza out of the deal. If we want to save our democracy, we simply have to think past political parties. I'm not saying we shouldn't invest in candidates that will go to bat for our values. I'm saying that the infrastructure of democracy is built on a foundation of nonpartisanship. With nonpartisanship itself an assumption that democracy is a common good that benefits all who live under its canopy. So if they choose me, then on November 8th, I'll show up to work the polls, not as a Democrat or a Republican, not as a member of the blue team or the red team, but just as an American who loves her country, and as a Unitarian Universalist whose life is organized around 8 principles, including the right of conscience and the democratic process. I also organized a team to participate in this year's walk to prevent suicide. My family has been and continues to be affected by mental illness. My father-in-law died by suicide long before I met my spouse. Preventing suicide is about seeing the inherent worth and dignity in people who are suffering. It's about being calm and present in the face of pain and despair, just present, without trying to fix or save. But I've always been a believer in praying with my feet, which is exactly what I'll be doing 2 Saturdays from now, and I'm still looking for team members if anybody wants to come walk with me. Yet another thing that I did was to volunteer with Planned Parenthood. This summer, our local organization coordinated a door-knocking campaign with groups walking through neighborhoods in the valley and talking to people about getting involved in the fight for reproductive justice. I'll talk a little bit more about this next week, but just for today, I want to talk about the experience of getting involved in a way that cost me more than a donation or clicking like on a social media post. On the day that I volunteered, I met a small group of people under a pavilion at a public park in West Valley City on an overcast Sunday morning. We listened to a brief orientation. Then we set out in groups of 3 to knock on doors. We used a phone app to locate homes with registered voters who were likely to be sympathetic to our cause. I was with 2 other women who I'd never met, but they were delightful, and we knocked on about 40 doors, and we only talked to about half a dozen people. But the conversations were beautiful, friendly, brief, but real. And I realized in a new way that sometimes we talk a good game about building community, but we don't always actually do it. Social media comments don't do that. Buying the right products doesn't do that. Seeing the same few people who agree with everything we already believe doesn't build community. Building community requires risk. There's no other way. We have to risk putting ourselves out there, letting ourselves be beginners. We have to take a risk on speaking our heart to someone without any guarantee that they will agree with us. And then we have to take the risk to listen with our whole heart, to listen past the fence that they may have put up around their heart, to listen past our own fences. We have to take a risk to admit where the gaps in our understanding are. And for us well-educated UUs, the gaps are usually in our hearts, not in our heads. We know the facts of the problems facing us, but sometimes we ignore our feelings about them. We don't always have words for the despair, nor for the longing. We are surprised, even alarmed, when our feelings reveal themselves. So for me, being a UU involves taking risks in relationships. It means building my capacity to speak courageously, but also to listen compassionately, curiously, undefensively. It means taking a risk on growing my world beyond its current limits. My family, my neighborhood, my church. I need to be in relationship with people who are not like me if I want to live fully into my faith. Our principles don't really mean anything in the abstract. Without putting them into practice, they are just a creed. And if we want to continue to make the claim that ours is a non-creedal religion, then we cannot allow the principles to be a statement or a test of belief. They have to direct our actions. They have to become spiritual practices for us. Now, when we think of spiritual practices, we usually think of things like prayer, meditation, reading scripture or poetry, puja or ritual, chanting, things like that. And you'll never hear me discourage those practices. I believe that those kinds of things help us understand the greater dimensions of life and our place in the universe. They remind us that we are more than just cogs in a machine, that we have inherent value that cannot be measured by time or money. They connect us with our ancestors, with our cultural heritage, with God, or if you prefer, with the ground of being. But for UUs, our spiritual practices can also be found right there in our 8 principles. What practice does our first principle require of us? What do we have to do to make sure every human being we come into contact with is treated with dignity? How do we make sure we never treat anyone beneath their dignity? How do we practice the goal of world community or beloved community? How do we manifest the interconnected web? Can others feel us encouraging them to spiritual growth? Most UUs already know that the 8 principles are not merely statements of belief. They call us to action, but they also call us to take risks. And here's where we often fall short. Our faith remains unfulfilled as long as we believe we have already arrived. These powerful principles call us to keep thinking bigger, to be unsatisfied, to reach for more love and more community and more opportunity. There's plenty to be angry about. And there are plenty of forces, in society that love it when we're angry. Because when we're angry, they make more money and they wield more power. What do we get out of that anger? Nothing, just higher blood pressure and a feeling that we are more alienated than ever. We won't win by fighting what we hate. Yes, it's a quote from a Star Wars movie. We won't win by fighting what we hate, but by saving what we love. We won't win by fighting what we hate. We win by saving what we love. The 8 principles remind us of what we love. We love justice and compassion. We love to search for truth and meaning. We love democracy. We love this world and the people of this world. We understand ourselves, this whole human race, to be all together in this love, in this work of love. And we love building community together in covenant, the agreements we make that are rooted in this foundation of love. This fall, our small group ministries will be focusing on the 8 principles. We will start in September by building our group covenants, and then we'll look at the slate of 8 as a whole. What does it really mean to live by these principles? How are they different from a creed? Which ones appeal to us? Which ones are more difficult to understand or live up to? Then we'll take each one at a time, not in numerical order, and consider how it lives within us right now, how it affects our personal lives, how it affects our church life together, how we can take action to embody this principle, how we practice it. So I want to invite each of you to participate and go deeper in your pursuit of a principled life. Think more deeply about the contours of your faith. Where are your growing edges? Which principle is calling you for a richer expression in your life? Where you see a place for each principle in the life of our church and our nation. Why are you a UU? Let's find out together. Amen. Our closing hymn today is number 346. I invite you to rise once more in body or in spirit, and let's sing together.
Save us
Beloveds, our worship is ended. Our service now begins. Let a question bloom in your mind as you go forward today. Who is my faith calling me to become? Let's prepare ourselves to find a brand new answer to that question in this new church year.